This special edition of our podcast may contain language and discussion of topics that are not suitable for all viewers.
I'm Sacramento County District Attorney Tin Ho. You're listening to our podcast, Off the Record, where we go beyond the headlines to share real case stories and give you a behind-the-scenes look. We'll dive into public safety topics and explore how our office is working to deliver justice, both in and out of the courtroom. Let's get started.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Off the Record podcast. I'm your host for this episode. My name is Courtney Martin. I'm a Deputy District Attorney here at the Sacramento District Attorney's Office. And I'm currently the lead prosecutor for the DUI and DUID misdemeanor prosecution, education, and outreach program. Funding for this program was provided by a grant from the California Office of Traffic Safety through the California Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Today we're highlighting the involvement of citizens in our prosecution and prevention of DUIs. And so we're very pleased to welcome two special guests. We have Brandon Gross and Devontae Rainey here. We're also joined by Deputy District Attorney Mai True. And we're going to be talking about a case that Mai prosecuted and that both Brandon and Devontae were involved in. So Mai, maybe you can tell us a little bit about just kind of the introduction of this case and kind of frame where we're going in our discussion today with Devontae and Brandon.
Sure. So this incident happened back on May 26th of 2022 at about 8:30 in the morning at the intersection of Power Inn Road and LC Avenue in South Sacramento. Veronica Vargas was driving her children to school, and as she passed through the intersection, she had her 4-year-old daughter, Samantha, in the back seat, and she was broadsided by the defendant, who was driving at 89 miles per hour. He was later found to be driving under the influence. His blood alcohol level was a 0.25. After the crash happened, Veronica's car flipped onto its roof. It was hit so hard it moved down the roadway, and the defendant got out of the car and tried to walk away. And that's where Brandon and Devontae came in. Brandon, along with a few other civilians, stopped to help Veronica and Samantha and provided support in trying to give them comfort, trying to see if they can, open the car door to get them help. And Devontae saw the defendant get up and walk away. So he and actually a bystander that he didn't even know offered him a bicycle. And Devontae hopped on this complete stranger's bicycle and rode down the street following the defendant. He took videos and pictures of the defendant, and then other civilians came and actually physically held the defendant down before CHP got there. And so the involvement of both Brandon, Devontae, and some of the others is what helped me be able to actually prosecute this case successfully.
Yeah, and we're going to hear from them and their perspective and also hear a little bit more about how the case played out at trial. But I want to put the emphasis on really the victims of this horrific crash. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
So Veronica was pronounced on scene, so she was killed as a part of this incident. Samantha suffered very serious injuries, including a spinal cord injury, fractured pelvis, multiple broken bones all over her body. And to this day, 3 years later, she is still in a wheelchair and will be for the rest of her life.
Yeah. And we're going to go to you guys. Thanks for being here. I'm going to go to Brandon first. Well, what did you see? What was this like for you?
So the first thing I saw is, I just saw a car upside down on this roof. I saw a guy that was exiting the vehicle, and back in 2020, I was in an accident, and there was a bystander that helped me get out of the car.
Yeah.
So I immediately threw my truck in park. I ran over there, did what I could do to help the people in the car. There was not much I could do because I didn't want to move the people because I didn't know how bad the injuries were. I just wanted to provide some comfort and support and say, hey, there's help on the way, just hang on, relax. I called 911 on the way over to the vehicle. But I didn't want, there were a bunch of other people there that were like trying to turn the car back over. And I didn't know where her head was, where her bones were, where her arms were. I didn't know where anything was. So I didn't want them to make the injuries worse. So I just kind of like crawled inside the vehicle, and I was able to talk to her until the first responders arrived.
Yeah. Was this, so it sounds like it was just a normal day. This was kind of the middle of the day, right?
8:30 in the morning.
This is the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the start
I
of
was
the day.
working. I was at work. And
Okay.
I left the job site. I was going to the next one. I worked for PG&E, and I just happened to be right there when it happened.
And what kind of road was this?
What kind of road?
Yeah, like,
It's like a main
LC and
street.
Yeah, Main Street. I mean, Power Inn's a main road. LC's like a main, I guess, crossroad. And I just happened to be leaving one job site, going to the next, and that's when I saw it.
yeah. And you mentioned that you saw somebody get a man getting out of the other car. Did you actually see the collision, or you?
No, I got
just,
there right after the collision
Yeah.
happened. I saw the guy kind of staggering around, and ironically enough, another friend of mine happened to be there. He works for Alhambra,
Okay.
and he just happened to be in the same intersection. So we kind of said, "Hey, do you want to help the people in the car, or do you want to get the guy?" And I'm like, "Well, the guy's not going to make it very far.
Yeah.
He was very good. So let's help the people in the car."
Yeah.
And that's when we decided to help them.
Yeah. And turning to you, Devontae, what was your perspective? What were you up to that day? How did your attention get drawn to this?
I actually was on my way to work, but where I'm working at now, or at least at the time, we didn't have a facility where we could completely occupy yet. So I had gotten a text message from my boss saying we had some online training that we can do at home. So instead of making a U-turn, I ended up going through the neighborhood. So I ended up being facing southbound, and I'm at that intersection. And I'm just waiting to go back home. Power and LC is the cross street of where I was like born and raised. That's like the first light you get to. Born and raised. I'm 29 now. So I know those streets, and that's the first intersection I was at. I'm just sitting there. I'm just looking at the light, waiting for it to turn green, and then I just see the truck, and I see, Veronica, who's driving, get struck by the car, by the truck, and and then after that, the light turns green. There's a little dirt area right there on that corner, so I just felt like I had to do something, and right from there, I turned, went into the dirt lot, and then started taking action.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit from your perspective about what you were doing when you were taking action.
So it was a crazy morning. But after that happened, after I saw the accident, I saw that the car, there was a lot of bystanders. There was a few bystanders by the car, and I noticed that the driver of the truck, he gets out of his truck, he stumbles to the ground. Maybe this is maybe like a 15-second process. He gets out, stumbles to the ground, he gets up, and he just starts walking. Nobody was really paying him any mind. At least it didn't seem like it. I thought I was the only person that really knew where he went, but everybody was focused on the upside down car, which obviously they were hurt. So then I called 911. I'm on the phone. I didn't want to leave that specific area until I was done talking to the dispatcher, and then they called the fire department and everybody. So I was on the phone for, I don't know, you might know how long that call was, but it was enough time for him to get some distance. So I finally get off the phone, and then one of the bystanders was like, "Oh, where'd the driver of the truck go?" And I just responded. I was like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure he went that way," pointing down LC a little bit further towards, there's a park over there. And yeah, there was just another bystander that was there. He just seemed like he was going for a bike ride, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to take my bike?" And I was like, "Sure." And then he gives me his bike. He has like a bag, like a carrier and stuff on there. He just gives me his bike, and then I go down the street. I see the guy. As I'm approaching him, shortly after that, there was another guy that came, pulled up in a truck. I also I have video of that. And he came. He must have been a wrestler or something, because he got him down pretty easily.
Yeah.
But and then we get him to the ground. And then shortly after that, I call 911 again, and I give them an update on where the driver of the truck was.
Yeah.
And eventually they come, and then I head back and give the guy his bike back.
Yeah. It's wild. It sounds like, but for that call from your boss, hey, you can go home and do some things at home, you wouldn't have been there at that day.
As simple as that, yeah. And if I if the timing would have been off a little bit, then, and I would have had my green light, you know, it could have been me that was in the accident opposed to, you know, Veronica and Sammy. But yeah, that text message, because I would have ended up going straight up Elsie going towards the freeway. But instead I made a U-turn through the neighborhood, and I just so happened to be right there. But yeah, if I didn't get the text message, it would have never happened.
Mai, tell us a little bit about how you get involved as a prosecutor, a little bit about your background, and then what happened during the trial.
Sure. So I've been a DA now for almost 16 years. At the time of this case, back in 2022, I'm in the CCP unit, so the Career Criminal Prosecution Unit, and that unit handles vehicular manslaughter cases. So I was assigned the case from the beginning. Once it was filed, I met with the family, and we start going through and really reaching out to witnesses, making sure we have their statements, we have everything, you know, recorded and stuff, because we know in this type of case when someone is killed, oftentimes it does go to trial. So we do want to make sure that from the get-go, we have all of our evidence put together. And then from there, it's really just trying to see what is a fair, you know, ending and result in this type of case. Clearly, you know, Veronica was killed, Samantha was seriously injured, so we wanted to hold him accountable, knowing that he had a prior DUI. He was on probation for a misdemeanor DUI when this happened, and, you know, a few weeks before he had just finished his DUI program.
Wow.
And so, you know, for us it was important that he's held accountable for his actions, because these are serious cases when someone loses their life.
And you mentioned that his blood alcohol content was 0.25. For our listeners, can you give us some context for what that means?
So the legal limit in California is 0.08. So here we're looking at the fact that he's more than 3 times the legal limit. In his first DUI, he was a 0.16. So at that point, he was already 2 times the legal limit. So we're talking about someone who at 8:30 in the morning is 3 times the legal limit. And, you know, at trial, there was a lot of discussion of how much he had to drink. And he was, you know, just taking shots of Jameson and tequila for hours on end. And then he decided to get into a, you know, it was not a small truck, it was actually a dually truck. It was this massive truck and just driving on the roads in Sacramento.
You mentioned holding him accountable, and that evaluation happens. Tell us how that played out.
So when we went to trial, he was convicted by a jury of gross vehicular manslaughter with intoxication. So basically that his negligence was, you know, gross negligence because of the way he was driving, and also intoxication because of how high his blood alcohol content was. So that was for the death of Veronica. And then he was also convicted of driving under the influence, causing serious bodily injury to Sammy for the injuries that she received. He was also convicted of the hit and run with injury, so his fleeing afterwards, and he was sentenced to the max of 13 years, 8 months based on what he was convicted of.
And both of you testified at the trial, right? What was that experience like, starting maybe with Brandon?
It was pretty difficult.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen it on like Dateline. I think it's pretty easy, and it's not. It was very difficult. Actually, Devontae and I were talking. It was easy to do it because of the reasoning, but it was just hard for me, not because I was afraid of someone going to jail.
Right.
But it was just, it was a lot.
Yeah.
I said,
And then the court reporter says,
I had to like really clarify everything that I wanted to say. And it was harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. What about for you, Devontae?
I can agree with everything he just said. I watch like Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix and stuff like that, and I see people testify, but it's, you know, it's a show. But being up there on the stand is just completely different. But it was a little easy because everything that she was asking me, you know, I generally felt so strongly about, because I was there. As she played the videos, I was like, is this person that's in the video, you know, do you feel like this person's here? I'm like, yeah, I feel like this person's here. Like, you know, I was going based off of all facts. So it was really easy. But yeah, as far as the needing to clarify what I was saying and whatnot, that was a little difficult because, I was like,
Yeah.
And she's like, no. And she was like, what? What did you? What do you
Is
mean
that
by
a yes? I always tell my witnesses now, if you say or I'll probably have to say, is that a yes? Is that a no? I'm not trying to be sassy. We just need a clear record. Yeah, and it's hard for the court reporter to write or
It was a first for sure.
Yeah. It sounds like at no time did you regret getting involved in this case, and that's amazing because, I think Mai can testify to this as well. As prosecutors, we often see that community members want intervention and accountability, but they are sometimes reluctant to participate in a process that can be challenging. And so for people to come and want to be involved from start to finish, like you guys have, is really unique and really special. And Mai, you wanted to recognize that with the Outstanding Citizens Award, so tell us about that.
Yeah, so every year the DA's office gives citizens in our community what we call the Outstanding Citizens Award, and we nominate based on cases we've prosecuted. And for me, the purpose of these awards are really to recognize people that make a difference. Right, for us as prosecutors, us in the job, this is what we do every single day, is we try to hold criminals accountable. We try to find justice for victims who live in our community. And we care very much about that. And for us, this is what we do day in, day out. But when it comes to citizens who are helping us, that's not their job. They're people like you guys living their lives, not always, I guess, from the front end, seeing what a difference they make. And so for us, we want to recognize that. We want to acknowledge it and show our appreciation, because without people like the two of you and the others that were also honored at the Outstanding Citizens Awards, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And here in this case, on the two ends for both of you, why it was important to me is knowing that Veronica was, she was killed on scene, and Sammy was severely injured in the back seat, but knowing that there were people there who cared to provide comfort to Sammy and to give Veronica some peace that Sammy wasn't alone, I think made a really big difference. And you're just talking about like on a human level. And then, Devontae, without what you did, we wouldn't have been able to prosecute him because, he was literally getting away. He was literally running down the street. And you being so smart on your feet and taking those videos that I played and those photos that I used in the trial really helped the jury see what went on that day, right? Because, I know you guys heard from me for about a year trying to get this trial to go, right?
Yeah.
But by the time we were at trial, we were 2 years since this incident happened. And a lot of times it's really hard to recreate that for a jury, to get them to see and understand that. But when we have civilians, like the jury, right? Everyday people living their lives coming together, and they can see it from your point of view, it makes such a huge difference. So for me, you guys are exactly the type of people that our office wants to honor, and that's why I nominated you guys.
Yeah. And DUIs can become these very technical trials. You hear from a criminalist and you hear about blood alcohol levels and absorption and elimination of alcohol content, and they become a lot about science. And so to have your voices and, of course, the voices of the families be heard in these trials, I can see how that would make such an impact. What was it like for you to be honored in the Outstanding Citizens Award? Maybe, Brandon, you can tell us a little bit about when Mai called you and then what it was like at the ceremony.
Me it was, I was honored, but it was a very emotional day. I'm getting teary-eyed right now. It was tough.
Yeah.
Just seeing the family and seeing the girl and seeing the husband and realizing, that I have a wife and I have 3 kids, and what if that was them? And it was a very emotional day. I remember they showed the pictures up and I couldn't even look at it. It was just like I didn't want to see it again. Because I have a vivid picture in my brain of what I saw in that car.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was I was honored, but it was very emotional.
Yeah. It's something I'm sure you'll never forget.
Right.
Had you seen the family since then?
No, but I actually went to lunch with them after that.
Okay.
I got to see Sammy in a wheelchair doing wheelies
Mm-hmm.
and talk to the dad, and I mean, I met the whole family, the uncles, the cousins. I mean, it was really cool. We spent like 3 hours at lunch with them.
That's really cool.
It was
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It was amazing. He got my phone number. I got his phone number.
Yeah.
He wants to have like a family barbecue and invite all of us.
Mm.
I said, yeah, whenever you want to do it, let me know, and I will be there for sure.
Yeah.
That's
Be there.
amazing. Yeah.
It was cool.
And Devontae, tell us about your experience that day.
That day, also, I can agree with Brandon as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very emotional. I actually almost slept through it. I almost slept through it. I had forgotten about it, but you know, Mai was hitting me up, and she was like, "Hey, you need to be here." And I was like, "Oh, okay, my bad, but I made it."
Yeah.
I'm really, really glad I made it, and I can't believe that I forgot about it. But it was very, very emotional. But meeting the family, meeting Sammy, seeing Sammy do her wheelies and whatnot was really like heartwarming, and meeting just the rest of the family, meeting the dad, and it felt really great to be there and know that, you know, I made a difference.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Anything else that you would share with other community members who may be in a situation where they're trying to decide whether to intervene? It's kind of the split-second decision, and or any comments on maybe how this has impacted you, or ways that.
I mean, I would just say, I mean, if there's a slight inclination that someone may need help, stop and help them. What if it was you or your wife or husband or whoever it may be?
Yeah.
Someone you loved, right? Like, wouldn't you want someone to stop?
I feel like it comes down to just like having like some compassion.
Mm.
Not everybody, and not everybody has that, but it would be nice if they did, because you know we'd be in better situations like we are now.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it comes down to.
Don't ever think, oh, they've got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
never enough help, right? Because, I mean,
Right.
if we were there, we were with the car. If he wouldn't have been stopped, then that guy, he may have gotten away. I mean,
Yeah.
we never
Yeah.
know. So there's never enough.
Yeah.
It was almost in the neighborhood, and it could,
Right.
it could have went.
You go through the backyards, over fences. and-
Yeah.
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 Stop.
Yeah, and we, you know, I think you talked about at the ceremony that eventually the police would have tracked him down, but then who knows what state the evidence would have been in, because
Right.
these cases, they are very time sensitive. You have to, you know, basically capture someone's, not just their body, but their blood or breath in time to be able to document what kind of drinking or drugs they've consumed. And so
Right.
that time is of the essence in these cases in a way that's different than other cases potentially.
Makes sense.
And you guys have done a great job of describing this chaotic scene, and we've seen pictures. I know that our audience is going to see pictures, and I can imagine that there becomes a little bit of this bystander effect where people are, oh, there's people around, someone will do something. And so for you guys to jump in and be the ones that take action, I think is really amazing. I'm going to comment a little bit for our audience on the on DUI charges and sentencing, and you talked about it a little bit in this case. But essentially, what you get in DUIs is this situation where the more DUIs you get, the more significant the penalties are. If you get a first-time DUI, it can be as little as 2 days in county jail, but it quickly moves up from there. And then if someone is injured or killed in a DUI, it can be prosecuted as a felony with state prison as a sentence. So even for a first-time DUI offender, they can go to prison if someone is injured or killed as a result of their actions. Any other comments about sentencing or things for people to consider?
Not about sentencing, but I will say this: during the trial, I tried to ask, the witnesses, the civilian witnesses, like, why did you do what you do? Why did you do what you did back then? And I think two things, stood out to me. One of them was what I asked Devontae, why he did that. And he said, because it didn't seem fair. Mm-hmm. It didn't seem fair that the defendant did what he did that resulted in the death of Veronica and those severe injuries to Sammy, and that he can just get up out of his car and walk away.
Yeah.
And another witness said, because it was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And the witness who said that is the one who tackled the defendant down to the ground. And he said, he thought about, he has a wife, he has a daughter as well. Mm-hmm. And to me, I think that's what's inspiring about everyday people living their lives that step up to make a difference, is because they think about doing what's right, doing what's fair, on a humanity level. And so for me, that's what really stuck out about this case is, you know, it's a great tragedy to the Vargas family, and it always will be. But I think they also found comfort in that there were people there who helped.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just, you know, law enforcement who got involved, but it was just people that cared enough to help.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was actually just mentioning to her before this that at lunch I was with the Vargases, and he called their brothers, he called nephews, and he was like, "Hey, I'm with one of the angels that saved Sam." And just like he refers to us as her angels, and that's why you do it, right? Like,
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Well, here at the DA's office, we are emphasizing prosecutions of DUIs, like Mai did in this case. We're also emphasizing prevention. And so we have a number of programs, including our Youth Academy, where we teach youth about DUIs. We have our Citizens Academy, which is a program where citizens come and learn about a variety of different types of crimes, including one of their sessions is about DUIs. And then, of course, we have this podcast where 4 times a year we highlight DUI cases and elements of DUI prosecution so that the community can be educated about this very important topic. So I want to thank all of you for being here and telling the story of this case and honoring the family and the victim in this way. Thank you.
You've been listening to Off the Record. I hope this episode encourages you to stay informed and inspired. Follow us on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes content from our office. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time for more stories that matter.